Now it's time to welcome our line opinion panelists for the week to talk about some developing legislation on education. We're happy to be joined in studio by Dave Mulryan. He's president of Mulryan Nash Advertising. Andy Lyman to his left, he's a reporter at the Santa Fe Reporter. And across the table, that's Merritt Allen of Vox Optima Public Relations, one of our regulars. Thank you all for being here. Now, lawmakers at the Roundhouse are considering a proposal that would bring back a state board of education to New Mexico. Currently, the state has a public education department and a secretary, of course, who is appointed by the governor. The proposed resolution would remove the secretary position and create a 15-member board of education with 10 elected members and 5 members appointed by the governor. Now, that group of 15 would then hire a state sup, or superintendent, to lead the public education department. If approved, this would return the state to a public education model. New Mexico held Dave Mulryan for 5 decades before voters removed the board in 2003. Buyer's remorse here? What's going on here? Why the big turnaround?
Well, but you know, the 50 years had fewer, superintendents or people in charge than the last 4 years.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
I think that one of the things that's clear is who's ever been appointed, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you have to pitch it. I mean, you have to say. And we have not seen in those 4 years, or however long this legislation has been here, we have not jumped up. We have not, I think we even fell one below Mississippi, if that's possible.
That's right.
We have not improved our education system. So listen, there should be no remorse about pitching it because it doesn't work. So, that's very clear.
Merritt, interesting. Dave mentioned we've had 3 different cabinet secretaries over the past 4 years plus. You got to have continuity, especially in education and how people kind of see these things. Is this the solution? Is it to go this way?
I really like this. It also, I think, points back to more local control.
Yep.
And I think the next reform that New Mexico has to consider is looking at the number of school districts we have. We have 86 school districts, and a third of our students are all in one.
Right.
That makes no sense.
That's right.
So we've got tiny, tiny school districts and a mega school district. And so allocating resources equitably that way just is awkward and obviously isn't working well. And our largest school district is not our top performing school district by a long shot.
Isn't that interesting? I want to come back to that as well. That's an interesting point. Andy, we're 50th in public education. As Dave mentioned, we fell a spot from 49th to 50th. Could the argument be made that the change in 2003 was a turning point for the state? Are we looking for a moment to scapegoat here? Because as Dave and Merritt mentioned, we've not appreciably done anything better since we went to this 2003 scheme.
Yeah, I think it's hard to, I don't know that if I guess you could point to that and sort of flesh out whether changes started at that moment. I do remember in 2013 this happened, or there was an attempt here, but it was sort of pointed at former Governor Susana Martinez's cabinet secretary, Hannah Skandera.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that this is getting some more traction, sort of bipartisan traction, considering that before it was like, oh, we just don't like this secretary, we're going to try to change it up.
Right.
But at that time too, it was kind of like, hey, remember we just got to this, right? It's sort of, I don't know, in the whole scheme of things, we're sort of still new in this cabinet secretary thing, right? 20 years, I guess, is not that new, but it's sort of considering how long it was before that. But I do think it's not going away, right? I think people are going to keep bringing this up even if it doesn't happen this year.
Right. People want results, Dave. They want results. Right.
But also, number one school district in the country, either Massachusetts or New Jersey, they tend to swap, They spend 3 or 4 times what we spend in New Mexico. Although I don't think our budgets are really, that bad. I think it's a matter of political will. How do we change this and say, it's like UNM. UNM has a 50% dropout rate. It's the cornerstone. Eastern New Mexico University, we lose 70% of all people before they graduate. So education starting from the very beginning until, college is lousy. There's just no other way to put lipstick on that pig. And
yeah, Andy, when you think about it, I don't understand how we've not made a move on this beforehand. And now we've got this number, we've got 15 different people, but with more people, there's more problems. When you got more ideas. Is that a concern, not for you personally, but just watching how mechanics of New Mexico politics work. You get a group of people in a room, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get better ideas at the end of the day.
No, but I think there's an argument that you get a better thought process, right? Where it doesn't end up just one person answering for the decisions. I think there's a bunch of other states. Actually, my uncle was on the Board of Education in Alaska, same thing, right? And you do get a mix of people in there. And I think maybe sometimes you might get enough people that it sways one direction, but I do think it looks maybe somewhat a little bit better than instead of, the old adage, the buck stops here, which is good for a lot of things. But I think if you can't sway that one person's, that being the cabinet secretary, their mind on something, maybe we do need some more folks in there to sort of pitch some other ideas.
Interesting point, Merritt, I want to talk with you about, everybody, I suppose. There is a bill right now that would have members of school boards disclose campaign donations and, more importantly, be trained on things like finance and budgeting and things of that nature. I'm interested in your thought on that. It seems like a really good idea.
I don't know that the state needs to get involved in local school boards. I'm not a huge fan of that because I don't feel like the state's done a good job at the state level with education. Now, I think local school boards, we've had some egregious situations with local school boards. And I understand that, but I think that's up to the voters to fix. That's why you have elected school boards. So I think the state offering resources that local school boards can take advantage of, but I think mandating I think that's kind of state overreach. That's my mindset. And if you feel that your local school board member is not trained or fit for the job, then vote them out.
Right. It's the before or after, what Merritt's saying. You got to have something coming in the door. You can't be just a blank sheet and get trained to be
Without a doubt, but also a politician always looks for some sort of procedure, the election or whatever. How do we help improve that? Because that's going to improve the quality of the politician. I'm not sure that's true, but, but I think Merritt's point, where we have one huge Bernalillo County school system and then all these smaller ones, needs to be taken into account, And I think if we're going to look for a solution, maybe Bernalillo County has its own schools board, and the rest of them are grouped together, so there's some amount of parity. I don't know. We need, but I think we should try things that are new and unusual because whatever we've done hasn't worked. There's no question.
Right. Does Grant County need 2 school districts?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Exactly
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me go back to this donations thing. I'm kind of interested in this, Andy. It's interesting. Currently, districts with more than 12,000 students, speaking of size, are required to report donations. And that only applies to 4 of the state's 89 school districts. Something's bizarre with that. Is it everybody or nobody at this point? What's the best way to handle this?
I read an interesting take on, that their donations in those smaller districts don't come the same way that they come for the larger districts.
Okay.
From what I've seen and covered, I think we might be more worried about how those board members got the position in the first place, or what sort of, because you're in those smaller districts, we have a list of stories, we can go back years of a cousin or brother or, hired a superintendent to do things. And I don't know, I don't cover the smaller districts that much, so I don't know where the money's coming from. But yeah, I sort of lean on that I don't know that they're getting a whole bunch of money from outside interests like you do in Bernalillo County or Santa Fe County.
That's an interesting point. No one's really proved that point to this date, that there's some kind of problem with these donations. I appreciate them trying to get ahead of something before the problem happens. But Merritt, interestingly, the president of the New Mexico School Board Association and a member of the Lovington School Board told the Journal that the measure was, quote, punitive. And if you want to know who donates in a small community, go to the post office, go to the coffee shop, it's there. That's a great quote, first of all. Is she right?
I would absolutely agree with that. I don't see where the Colfax County, digging deep into Colfax County school board donations is going to give you a smoking gun.
Right.
I don't, and it's just simply a matter of going to Walmart and finding out. I don't think they have a Walmart in Colfax County. You have to go, probably Lovington County.
Exactly.
Going to Walmart, you would.
Yes,
in
exactly
Lovington.
Right. Exactly right. David, is this a hammer to kill a fly, as they say? I mean, the president of the board said, the school board said it's punitive. I'm not quite sure what she means by that.
You know,
but,
but also I think it's a solution in search of a problem. You know, I don't think that bad school performance is somehow related to donations. That seems like to me a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we need to be looking at what can we do to improve our schools from the bottom up. And, you know, everything from teachers and I don't know. And I think it's a lack of leadership. Yeah,
that's right.
It's a lack of leadership from, you know, from state legislators, from school boards, from the governor, from everybody. Because if we don't fix this problem, then where are we going? You know, are we happy to stay 50th?
The future of New Mexico you're talking about.
Right.
Exactly
You
right.
know.
Yeah. Thanks to our line opinion panel for that. We'll be back in about 16 minutes to discuss the governor's latest executive order. If you haven't heard about this and how it will change the state's Children, Youth, and Families Department.